How's everybody doing? Matt McNeil coming to you from the garage, and I am finishing up an Eddie Quist here, Bright Boy. This one does not have bladders, but it has the red eye. Let's see if we can see that real quick. I didn't. Maybe a little bit you can see it. You got to get the light, directly on, and with the camera in front of it, I can't. But you can see a little bit of the red in there if you really try. So anyway, yeah, he's got that and punched hairline, stuff like that. Anyway, this guy's come together really well, and he is just about ready to go. But what I wanted to talk to you about is painting. And one of the methods that I use to paint this guy and actually everything is a spattering technique. And a lot of people, and even I, when I first started painting masks, would use literally just a brush, and I would flick the bristles with a very thin wash, and it would spatter the paint onto the surface. And if you got really, really close and really, really good, you could maybe kind of approximate, like some finer detail work. But for the most part, it was about breaking up your base coat. And one of the things that I like to do is sort of pushing base coat towards a different color by using that spatter or speckle, so that you start with just a very generic skin tone, and then you warm it up by using reds, and then you cool it off by using a little bit of blue, and then you kind of orange it up with a little orange and or yellow. But it's pretty tedious if you're using just a brush. So one of the tools that I discovered a while back, and I can't remember the name of the company that makes them, it's Makeup Effects something or another, but I buy them from a company called Pro Air, are these speckle tips, spatter tips, whatever you want to call them, spatter tips. Anyway, they come in 3 sizes. I actually have a little bit of an extra kit here. So they come in 3s. They come in a small, a medium, and a large. And the reason that I have more than 3 here is because they wear out. They're made of this sort of like silicone, and they do great. They just clip on to the end of your airbrush, and you're able to paint like spattering with your airbrush, and they're really fantastic. So what you do is you mix up a very thin wash of a color, and in my case, like I say, I like to use the speckle and spatter to push the skin tones towards something, and not just doing lines and shadows, but really to push those skin tones towards a color that I like. So something that's dead, you use a little more blue. Something that's sort of angry and alive, you use something that's a little redder, right? So in this case, I would start with a very neutral flesh tone, and then I would go in with red, and I would speckle the whole mask all the way around. And then come in and just hit the fine details, like this places that would be concentrations of red where the capillaries would have burst underneath his skin. And then I would then go back with a yellow and a blue just to kind of break it up and to shift those colors even further into the final color that I'm looking for. If that makes any sense at all. But the technique that I use and really like are using these tips. Now, the problem with these tips, and again, I'm not bagging on this product because I really like them. I've bought multiple sets of these. I've gone through them. They do deteriorate and they break. Or as they wear, what happens is the cuff there can let go of the end of your airbrush. And if it falls onto your floor, and if your floor is gross like mine, it could be gone forever. And then what happens is you roll over it with your rolly chair. And when that happens, no bueno, you got to start over. Time to buy 3 new speckle tips, one of which you'll use and the other 2 you won't. That's why those are clean and that one's sturdy. The number 1 tip is my favorite because it's very, very fine. And I can get into areas, and I've gotten to the point where I can actually sort of paint with it, as opposed to just covering large swaths of color, just as a skin breakup. But as you can see here, there's a lot of skin breakup in there, and that is all from speckle tips. Now, because they fall off, and because they wear, and because they break, and because I'm constantly buying them, and they're $30 for 3, the other night I thought, well, I wonder if anybody's come up with a way to 3D print these things. And of course someone has. And so I found these. And these I printed with my bamboo. So these are rigid plastic. This is PLA. And I'll be honest, they suck. And the reason they suck is because they don't fit the tip of my airbrush very well. You put it on there and they just fall right off. Now, could you put a rubber band around it? Could I resize it just by a little bit and make it fit? Sure. But they're not great. And I'm not bagging on whoever built these, because I appreciate that you're building these, because you gave me a great idea. And they just like the 1, 2s, and 3s, these are small, medium, and large. This is a medium. You get the point. So I continued my search, and then I found this. So I printed one of these. And the thing I liked about this was the fact that it grabs the airbrush on the body of the airbrush behind the cup. And the downside to this is that this little finger on here, which did not print very well, it's probably my fault in the printer, but I was, just really trying to get this done. And they didn't take very long to print at all. So anyway, I printed this, and the problem with this one, in my opinion, is that the tip on this one, the finger on this one, is very, very narrow. So there's not a lot of spatter, and your regular paint kind of gets around this. So it really is influencing the spatter more than I would like it to be, if that makes any sense. But this is also a great idea. So if they both kind of suck, but they both have great ideas, why not combine the two? So I then went and built this myself, which is a combination of the two, right? So I've got the spatter tip on the end, and then I've got the arm, the rigid arm, that snaps on to my airbrush in the back. So let me turn this around real quick, and I will show you if I can figure out. Really? It's not going to let me flip my camera around? Well, that sucks. Really? All right. Thanks, Facebook. So anyway, let me try this really, really quick with one hand. See if I can do this. And there we go. So it fits just like that. And what's nice about it is that tapered area that the original model that I found has fits nice around the Iwata's tip there, that bolt, tapered bolt thing. And then this holds on really, really well on the backside. So that's not going anywhere. There's no dropping this. It's not going to fall apart, which is amazing. So yeah, this is great. And I was able to print both small, medium, and large, just like the original model that I found. And just as a reference, I just painted this up so you could see. So this paper is a little bit absorbent, so it's it's kind of bled into the paper just a little bit. But that's the size of the large, that's the size of the medium, and that's the size of the small. And you can see there's probably a use for every one of these. But for my purposes, this is usually the best, particularly when you're layering colors. Now, could you make small large by backing away from whatever it is you're painting? Sure, you could. Could you make medium even larger and large crazy large? Absolutely. But what's nice to know is that you've got a small on hand so that you can get really close to whatever it is you're painting and maybe put in some detail work. And one of the things I wanted to show you was just really quickly, I doodled a vein with that small. So you can see that it's not just crazy broad areas. You could actually get in there and do some detail work, particularly in my opinion, around, and I did a little spiral thing, I was just messing around, particularly like around sort of like these nose folds, these creases, like areas like that, like here, so that you're not just doing that like kind of gauzy airbrush paint job, you're actually breaking it up a little bit. Now, you may go, well, that's going to look ridiculous on my mask. Well, there's two things that you can do. You can thin your paint even more, Or you can do one of my favorite techniques that I learned from Casey Love is you get basically an egg wash color or the base color or just a skew of your base color, thin it way out and take a sea sponge, and then you go back and you stipple the whole mask with that, and it pushes all of those colors back, and it gives you sort of this kind of like depth. If you can see that, what's nice about this is it doesn't feel like that those colors are specifically just laid on top of the skin. It feels like that there's a little bit of light sort of scattering it, and it just mutes it in the best possible way. So anyway, there you go. I made my own speckle tip, spatter tip, and I think I've improved on the design. They don't fall off. I'm not worried about these things rolling under my chair. And if they do, guess what? I'm going to go in the house and I'm going to print another one. And I think I can print a set of these like in 15 minutes, maybe not even. So there you go. Pretty fantastic. Let's see if I can. So you get a sense of what it's like to lay this down as opposed to just hitting it with a brush. And again, this paint mixture I mixed so you can specifically see it on paper, and I haven't put a wash on top of it. So there is a way to knock this way back, and I'm really not even that close to the paper. I'm using my phone to use as an eyepiece. Yeah, so anyway, you get the point. Pretty brilliant. So I love these things. They're great. If you're not already using them, give it a shot. And if you just want to see if it's something you even want to mess with, you can get the same effect with a popsicle stick. You just bend the end of a popsicle stick up a little bit and then rubber band it to the bottom of your airbrush so that it sits in the way of the flow of paint, and it'll speckle off the end. But the one thing that's nice about these is you do have a lot more control over the size of the spatter. And that's speaking of control, that's the other thing that I meant to mention about these. I always do this. I say bye in a video and then I remember like 12 more things I should have said. So anyway, is that you can actually slide this forward and back because of that arm back here. So what it does is it allows you to adjust your spray pattern based on how far or back this finger is from the tip of your airbrush. So the further out you go, the bigger the spots. The closer you go, the tinier the spots. So it's pretty great. Anyway, I'm very excited. I haven't used this particular version on anything yet. So stay tuned. I'm sure that I will be using these a lot. Hope everybody has a good weekend. And there you go. Talk to you soon.